What's up guys, my name is Andy. In this video, I'm going to review my QuickJack car lift system that I've used, well you've seen several times on my car and previous cars that I've had, and kind of go over the pros and cons of this. I get a lot of questions from you guys asking, you know, is it worth the purchase? Can you get enough clearance under the car? Is it easy to use? And all that kind of stuff. And I try to reply to all those and give you guys quite a bit of info so you can make your decision if you want to buy it or not. But I've never made a video about it, and I figured, you know, now's a good time to cover, again, the pros and cons of that system and if it's right for you. So first, this system is a great alternative to those that don't have the space or the height in the garage or even the money to buy a full car lift system. This is something, so this here, what I've got is the model number on this is the BL 5000 SLX, and I need to apologize to some people. I think in the past I've told people that I had the 3500 SLX, which is a lighter unit. It's made for a little bit, you know, lighter load. I have the 5000, and I apologize for that, guys. So sorry, but I purchased this about well, it's been 3 years or so. I got it at Costco it was on sale for about $1,000. I know they're more expensive now, but it was definitely a good purchase at the time. And actually at the time when I had it, I didn't even have this car. I had I didn't even have my other Mustang that I had. I had actually an M3, a 2008 M3 that I was enjoying at the time, and I needed to do the rod bearings on that car, which some of you are probably familiar with rod bearings on those motors being an issue. So having that lift system to get the car up high enough to get underneath there and do everything you need to do on that car was the biggest reason why I bought it. And then now I've used it quite a few times on this car. So one of the advantages of this QuickJack system is the ground clearance underneath the car. And now if you had taller jack stands, then that maybe give you enough ground clearance to match this, but then you'd have to have a tall floor jack to match it. I don't have that stuff. So in the case where you need a lot of ground clearance underneath there, depending on what you're doing, I think this is a superior way to go over traditional jack stands. But one of the trade-offs is because of where it's located, it's basically in between the front and the rear wheel on the side of the car. So ingress and egress from the side of the car is non-existent. You can't access the middle of the car from the side. You have to come in from either end. That's not typically a problem for most people. Most of the work that we do where we need to jack the car up is on the front end of the car or the rear of the car, and the middle is not really a big deal. With these Mustangs like mine, because the frame rails are so far inboard, it puts the QuickJack system closer inboard, and it restricts the path in the middle for you to access, for example, your transmission or your driveline or something like that underneath there. For more traditional cars where the pickup points are farther out and it's not as big of a deal, you've got a lot more room, but you still have to come in from the front and the rear, and that may be a problem for some people. I've had a few times where I've had to get my creeper, and I'd have to squeeze my arms in to fit in between there and just to get to what I need to, because I can't access from the side. So that's one of the things that I think is a downside to the QuickJack, but the trade-off is, again, the ground clearance. The lift speed is fine. I would say that the lift speed, once you get everything in place, is probably comparable to your traditional car lifts in the inches per second, or how fast it's going to lift the car. So you're not really getting an advantage or losing anything there. I'd say the setup time for setting these up is a lot longer than your traditional car lift, but it's not something that you really have an option at that point. And then the clearance that you do get is around 2 feet. So when we get this car up here, we'll see how much clearance we have. So let's take a quick look at the parts that we have over here and what comes with that kit when you buy the QuickJack system. So naturally you get the 2 lift pieces. There is a right and left system. That's because of this bar here, and I'll show you how that works. But there is a right and left. Then you've got, here's the controls. You just have a up and a down button, which is fantastic. And then you got just a wire just to plug it into the wall. And then it comes with these pads. There's 2 different sizes. There's a thicker one and a thinner one, and you can put these on here as to give you extra ground clearance or extra lift, and you can stack them, but you do run into a problem if you stack them too much. the car gets kind of tippy, so you don't want to do that. And then hiding behind here is the pump itself. I made a shelf for mine to go on just to get it out of the way, get it up off the floor so I'm not tripping on stuff, but that's what's hiding behind these parts here is the pump. And then the hoses, and then you get these two bracket pieces for helping move the QuickJacks around on the floor. Something that doesn't come with the kit are these clips here, they're these mounts. You just have to go into their website and order them separately, and it makes it really nice to get them out of the way and just hang them on the wall. Make sure you mount them into the studs, because these are pretty heavy systems here, but mount it in the studs, and they hang up pretty good, and makes a nice little clean little put away setup so that you're not, tripping on things and things aren't getting in the way for you. So let's go through the process of lifting the car, and we'll see how long it takes. So guys, you can see that, what did it take, about 5 minutes to get that lifted, which isn't horrible. I don't know if you want to compare it to traditional jack stands, it probably takes about the same amount of time. But you saw quite a bit of back and forth, maneuvering pieces in and out. I had to lift it a little bit and then double check to make sure the pads are in the right spot, because when they're sitting on the ground, but where you're going to pick up the car, you're trying to guess that it's in the same spot right above it. And then also, again, on my car, because the frame rails are closer together underneath the car, it pushes these QuickJacks farther underneath the car. More traditional cars, you'd be out here on the edge, and probably wouldn't be as big of an issue. But nonetheless, it is an issue particularly for these cars. And one of the things that may come to mind is, what's the stability on these cars? This thing's not going anywhere. Despite how spindly this system may look, it's pretty robust, and I haven't had the car hasn't fallen off, I haven't had any issues. The hydraulic system in here is sufficient. It lifts the car no problem. I mean, it doesn't even really know that the car is there, it just lifts it right up. And then, when I was talking about this right and left, you've got this arm right here, and the reason why you need to make sure you've got the right and left side put on the right side is that this keeps you from, this takes the load off of the hydraulic system. So now what we've got is a triangulated setup here, so that this is really doing all the work to support the car and not the hydraulics. And then when we're done, you just lift it up just a little bit and it releases this mechanism here, and then you can slide this back down and it's fine. So let's take a look underneath the car and see how much room we have underneath there. So as we slide underneath, see there's quite a bit of clearance underneath the motor here and everything from the ground all the way up. You could probably have enough room. If you needed to remove the engine from underneath the car, I bet you've got quite a bit of clearance under here. But I did want to point out, see how close these are together? Right now, I wasn't paying attention much when I put these in place to maximize the width. But right now, I couldn't get my creeper in between there. And it makes it kind of a claustrophobic kind of a feeling. And then also, you can see how we've got those pads up there, and see how I've got it set up so it's kind of straddling this frame rail and kind of cradles it here. It makes it just, nice and secure connection. So you could push, this over a little bit and move this out that way just to give you a little more room in between. But this really only matters on cars that, that don't have the lift points on the outside like mine do. But you still are limited from coming in from the side if you ever needed to do that. Let's take a measurement real quick and see how much ground clearance we have. Okay, so if we just go, from the ground here to the bottom of the oil pan, I've got about 19.5 inches from here This is probably the lowest point, or maybe, yeah, it's 19 inches to my cross member here. So this is probably the lowest point on my car. Some of you guys might have a little more space, a little more room, so not quite 2 feet of clearance, but I guess it depends on where you're measuring from. Really, it should be the change in clearance, from when the car is down on the ground versus up in the air. That's probably, I guess, what we're the most, most important number. And then you could change the pads on there and give yourself a couple more inches of clearance if you needed it. If I was to start nitpicking things about this setup, I'd say that the stiffness of the hydraulic hose is a little high. It's fine because you don't really do anything once it's up in the air, but trying to fish these across the car, I had to use that broom handle to grab it and pull it over here. It might not be your problem in your setup here, but I do wish these were a little more flexible, not so rigid. That would be kind of nice. And to further explain how this bar works, I'm going to go ahead and lift the jack out a little bit so you see this come loose, and then I'll show you how this system works. Now that we've freed this up, we just lift this up, and this little tab here kind of allows this thing to slide. There's a mark here, or a piece of welded bar in there, and then there's another piece right there. So you have 2 different set points. So by having this piece down like this, it allows this thing to go ahead and slide all the way down. And you can see as it slid over that second bump, that's another resting point. So we could, right now, if we wanted to, we could jack it back up, and the way this is designed, it'll catch on that bump inside there and allow us to lock at that point. There, just like that. So guys, that's a review on the QuickJack car lift system. Again, this is something that I recommend. There's a lot of people that don't have the space, don't have the money, don't have the ceiling height for a full lift system. This is a great alternative. It gives you plenty of clearance and really the most important parts, the front of the car and the rear of the car. And for those of you that have, the pickup points on the outside, the space in the middle of the car is not really an issue for moving in and out. You just can't access it from the side because the QuickJack system's in the way. So, all right guys, that's it. I recommend this thing. Again, model number BL5000SLX, and I got it at Costco. There are a lot of places that sell this system, and I recommend it. So guys, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, and if you subscribe, I appreciate it because it helps my channel out, and we'll see you in the next one.